When you are asked a question in interview, basic question is asked, why you want to become IAS? Why projects are running late? And why there is cost overrun? और ये cost overrun हो रहा है ये किसके ऊपर जाएगा? Then the question comes कि why we need constitution, isn't it? तो इसका आंसर ऐसे है, isn't it? Our process starts, journey starts to understand polity papers, and not only to understand it, but also let's have an enlightening experience. Simply because polity deals with governance, policy deals with the state, polity it deals with the state. You can see whatever the things happening in society. Now elections are going on. So you can understand the elections better if you know polity better. This means you can evaluate it, you can understand it in right fashion when elections and other things are happening. So economy is important, society is important, sociology is important, but all those things depend on system of government, because it is the system of government that drives them. In fact, they determine them, their scope, their application. This is how we can say. And that's why it becomes important. Every subject is important. When a teacher of economy will teach economy, so he will tell you about relevance of economy. And when a teacher of society, sociology will teach, he will say relevance of society. But they both will be operationalized by government. And when we speak government, so that government has two types or two aspects. One that you want to join, and the other which will govern you, or the other which will decide whether you should join or not. The politics, isn't it? So the politics which decides, isn't it? जैसे गवर्नमेंट चेंज हो जाएगी तो रिफॉर्म्स भी हो सकता है ना. So it is the politics which decides that whether you will join. That is what system of government we are talking. They will try to give you an overview of paper second today, and then time allows, so we'll start finally, let's say, from historical underpinnings. That generally in first class means today, we talk about polity papers, the journey of this polity paper from polity to governance. That how polity became governance. That you have topics related to governance. So how you'll understand it? That traditionally, if you read D.D. Basu, if you have, let's say that 10 years back, 20 years back, D.D. Basu, which used to be very popular, or even Lakshmikant also. So you will not find even the term governance in polity papers. This traditional polity, when we used to prepare, or let's say that till 2012, did not have all these topics which you have now. So then why we have included them in polity paper? That also you have to understand. That is called understanding. Because this, let's say, this examination has become more of not knowledge but also understanding, and it is more about understanding rather than just knowledge. So why we have added governance? Why we have added social justice? Isn't it? Why social justice is not in part of economy, rather in part of polity? नो अच्छा होता है कि जो पेपर 1 का सोसाइटी है, जो पेपर 2 का सोशल जस्टिस है एंड जो पेपर 3 का सोशल इकोनॉमी है, राइट, वो तीनों को एक ही जगह कर देते तो अच्छा होता. आई टोल्ड यू yesterday. Amartya Sen is a social economist, although he is a philosopher also. But he writes more on social economy. This economy has also different branches, the way other subjects have. The social economy, so this is how we have to understand. But why they have given them at 3 places, that also you have to understand. Paper 1, it will be more sociology oriented. This. So you will know more about nature of society, types of society. This. And paper 2 is more polity oriented, ki how polity determines society, how polity influences society. This. And paper 3 will be ki economy, that ki how economy drives society. Right. This. So all the 3 will have different perspectives. That's why they have mentioned at 3 different places. This. Like, just let me give example. In the outset itself, let's say if you take GST, the GST in paper 2, they will ask from a polity perspective. Right? Like, it will be considered as fiscal federalism. The fiscal federal polity, let's say that. In that sense, they will ask. But when they will ask in paper 3, it will become part of economy. Right? This. So that is how the orientation you will find. So we were trying to tell that how this paper, let's say, so this is how we will start that. We'll try to tell some basics. So those who know already, so you should bear us for some time. Right. Certainly we will start from basic to advanced. We'll talk, let's say, mains questions also, but it is important to get a perspective. Perspective is very important. This, which I say generally, let's say that knowledge plus understanding, that brings perspective. The main difference between any person who is knowledgeable, not knowledgeable, is not of the first two, it is of this perspective. Like, let's say leadership. You have Modi ji also, once he was popular, isn't it? But in this election, there are challenges. Right? In the other first two elections, so Modi ji, let's say, was quite popular. His perspective was liked by people. Yes. But now there is a challenge, although we do not know, or we are not talking elections, but just we are talking. So a leader has a perspective. What is the difference? Difference is in their perspective, the way they can see the things. This. So that way we can say, let me tell that Modi ji may not be as knowledgeable as Manmohan Singh. That Modi ji was that time, let's say. Today also, he may not be as knowledgeable as Manmohan Singh. He is economist and a professional economist, you know that. And he is known in terms of economics in not only India, he is a popular person across the world. Yes. But then Modi ji, right, he had perspective. So that is how, let's say that when you are asked a question in interview, it is your perspective. So basic question is asked, why you want to become IAS? Right. So you are sharing your perspective. This perspective comes on the basis of, let's say, knowledge and understanding. Many a time, let's say that you may lack this, but you can have this better understanding. Like your parents may not be as educated as you are, but they can have better perspective, understanding, perspective. That is how we'll try to tell. So let's take that. this called so this paper we can divide into sections we say as let's polity and constitution. Then governance, social justice, and IL. Now it will be, let's say, it is traditional plus. So traditional plus means what it used to be till 2012. Polity what used to be till 2012. Plus we have added this plus, what that plus factor we can consider. Then let's say it is completely new. This, it is for you completely new, let's say that they have added. This is partially new, not completely new. Right. And this is, let's say that old one. So it is as, let's say that used to be in past. IR the way it used to be in past, let's say that. The only thing is that they have divided into this paper. Right. Why partially we are saying it? Because social justice, whether you talk, you do not talk. Let's say we started our journey of, let's say that after independence, we wanted to achieve social justice, poverty alleviations and all those programs, schemes, isn't it? So even if the term social justice may not be popular, but the aim was also to achieve welfare, social justice, DPSP. We had DPSP. Why new? Let's say that the new elements, that the tools that we want to achieve and some new ideas of social justice that we have. That's why let's say that we have added it. This. In fact, the idea of social justice gained its significance after 1970s and 80s. This you should know. So after let's say largely 1980s, 90s, we started talking social justice. And two persons played important role for social justice. One was John Rawls and second is Amartya Sen, which you will know here and there, including in ethics paper and this and that. So that way you should know. So that is how we can say on this. Now, if you take governance part, let's say, so again it is 1980s, we started talking about governance. Governance we use in two ways, one in traditional sense and another in contemporary sense. In traditional sense, it is similar to polity. And in new sense, it is not similar to polity, rather it is more of a process, a collective process which we will talk. This. It means, let's say that the developments after 1980s have tried to somehow redefine polity. Basically what it used to be polity and constitution. This. And then what is plus part, that also we will write. This. The plus part you are seeing, there are also nothing but developments happening 1980s onwards. This. So the developments happening 1980s onwards, like this. Means what has happened that, you see, these developments were happening, but a time came that now you cannot ignore them. Right. Means this syllabus was redefined in 2013. It means we were ignoring for at least 2 decades. Right. So when you were being taught polity, means that time, or let's say that ki whatever, let's say that ki the pattern of examination was, it was not up to the mark. One concern of UPSC is how to keep your civil service examination relevant to its time. And one concern is how you can get knowledge relevant to the time you belong. This. So that is how ultimately it resulted into redefining. And it is not only paper second, but all the 4 papers, you know that they have been. In fact, ethics paper is a new paper which has been added. No, that time also will come when we'll talk about ethics paper. So we'll tell you that you have not studied ethics in your graduation, right? But now it is a part of UPSC. This. So it is very interesting, right? It means it shows it should be part of graduation. Right? This. Anyhow, so I will just give a brief of each, let's say that. Then we'll take some basics. If you take polity and constitution, and I will add plus or new. Okay. So see, it is difficult to tell, like, although it is not important, because you should know syllabus, irrespective कि वो पहले का है या नहीं है, क्या फर्क पड़ता है. So it does not matter whether it is new or old, right? But yes, just to understand it. Plus, let's say I will tell the vastness, let's say that they were part of the past, but you know that the vastness is new. This, that you have to study now in more details than what we used to study in past. This, because federal polity was not needed to be taught in such details. This you can say. So similarly, constitutional bodies, statutory bodies, quasi-judicial bodies, separation of power, this all added, let's say. In fact, all that traditional section can be clubbed into this, because we can cover by teaching all these major sections. This, the historical aspect, constitutions, it will bring main features, fundamental rights, DPSP, fundamental duties, blah, blah things. Thereafter, the three organs you teach, it is almost half of polity that we say, which will take everything, structure, function, role, this and that, the way they have written the syllabus, the way it is written. This, then local government, now last year they asked 74th, so we had this is how yesterday I told you 10% of those topics which they will ask, which they have not asked. So that was one 74th Amendment Act. But we mentioned it, we did not teach simply because we say let's PSC ask, then we'll teach. So that is how. So now you can take this local government. So far we were taking it Panchayati Raj institution, but now we will take as local government because both they have asked. So that way we can say. But in past they did not ask. If you take 2013 before, so questions were not in that way. Let's say on Panchayati Raj institutions, if you say, so 5 questions if they have asked, the 5 questions are sectoral questions. They are not generic question. Discuss the significance of 73rd Amendment Act. Rather, it is 73rd Amendment Act, how it brings women empowerment. So now you have to know women specific. So do you have women specific related weaknesses and good facts? This. So that way we can say this is how the vastness is new. Then let's say something, although you can keep this here, but since let's say that its domain is very, let's say that wide, or it has resulted into, let's say that talking or giving a special emphasis, generally a question they ask from this Representation of People Act. One more topic that I have left is called comparative constitution. This, and generally they have asked 3 questions from this so far. If you take comparative, India and UK, India and US, India and Canada, I guess. As Canada they have not asked, yes. India, UK they have asked, India and France they have asked. Yes. So that way you will find this. So this you can say that. Pressure groups, let's say they have added, although you can take, you cannot take like this. Policy designs, they have asked 2 questions, I guess. Regulatory bodies, you can say purely new topic. This. And regulatory bodies, purely new topic, and it is because of governance and let's say your liberalization, privatization things. Now you can imagine that privatization, liberalization, PPP you will study in paper 3. But one aspect of that is called regulation. It is related to paper 2. This. Second key, yesterday there was a news, one news was published or something I guess, how projects are running late. This, you may have got this. And since projects are running late, so because of running late of those projects, India incurs losses of 5 lakh crore. This cost overrun जिसको बोला जाता है. This. And इसका एक major problem है regulatory problem. Why projects are running late? And why there is cost overrun? और ये cost overrun हो रहा है, ये किसके ऊपर जाएगा? लोगों के ऊपर जाएगा. Right. That's also 5 lakh crore. Right. Total projects cost is around 30 lakh crore. This, जितने projects अभी चल रहे हैं उसका total cost है around 30 lakh crore. And then cost overrun, so 35 lakh crore. And one major problem is called regulation. This. So this is how we can understand, we talk about polity and constitution part. This, although we'll talk the relationship between polity and constitution. This. Then let's take that call, governance. Governance, let's say all topics we can consider. You can see from syllabus. I will not write all of them. Isn't it? Governance, good governance, RTI, citizen charter. Jo? Governance, good governance, RTI, citizen charter, accountability. Accountability will have Lokpal, CBI, CBC, CAG, then e-governance. This. Whistleblowing. So these are basically, let's say, that topic, and then we have been expecting another topic called social audit. This. So in governance also, let's say that since it is separate topic, where to club it? So we'll try to club, since we talk about government, we'll try to club role of civil services. This, although it is not part of governance, this, but somehow you have to teach it, somehow you have to talk it. Since governance and good governance are about also civil services, let's say, it is the main instrument. So that's why, let's say, it can be considered like this, we can take it, which is also, let's say, new. Means they have added, let's say, that, and that is also new, let's say, it was not part of polity. This, and I think three questions they have asked, or 4 questions they have asked from civil services. And all those 3 questions are not simple questions. This, which demands, again, let's say, understanding of the subject properly like this. It can be completely considered new. Then if you take social justice, so we'll include, let's say, that like donor, charitable, civil society organizations, this non-profit institutions, their role basically, it is related to their role. This, then let's say schemes and programs, schemes, programs, laws, rules, policies, this, that you can consider. And then we can say about education, health, human resource development, and then we can say that poverty. Right. Issues relating to poverty. This, and they ask, let's say, its scope is very wide basically. If you take syllabus scope, so it is wide, although we can make it confined by following what we told you yesterday. If you follow in that fashion, right? So this, and then next is called IR, which is completely dissociated. This, So then we have to understand the link. We cannot separate these three things. They have interrelationship. This, why they have interrelationship? So let's take that ki polity, or let's say constitution. So it is traditional way to govern. It is traditional way to govern, let's say that. And this traditional way to govern started experiencing its own flaws. This. Hence we needed a new way to govern. And new way to govern is called governance. This. And both, can say that, both want to achieve one thing. Right. Right. Social justice. This. Right. Because aim of polity is social justice, or you can say social justice you can take in different way. Welfare, dignified life of people. People should live life in a dignified manner, isn't it? How they will live. So we thought that this way there will be social justice. But then we realized no, traditional way we may not achieve social justice. We need to adopt new way. This. And that new way came is called governance. Right? And both result into social justice. Simple, let's say that the journey, if you talk, journey from polity to governance is that the government alone cannot govern. This. Government alone cannot govern. Right. It must govern together. This. So government cannot alone govern. This. That's why you will find कि आपने ये सब सुना होगा, सुनते होंगे ये सारी चीज. Power should go to people. Power should go to people, isn't it? बहुत सारे articles लिखे जाते हैं. So you may be reading all these things in newspaper, especially let's say कि Vivek Debroy. So when he recently wrote an article, or whenever he writes article, in his article one thing you'll find, he will write in that article that power should go to people. This. Raghuram Rajan, he has written third pillar. The third pillar is about people. This. The first pillar is government. Second pillar is private. Third pillar is people. This. You should know that Western countries, if they are better, because power has gone to people. This. So that concept has come, which is what we have to understand. The polity, let's say, how we want to govern this. So traditional there was, that's why they cannot be, let's say that you cannot have a wall, let's say, or you cannot separate them. This. It will be, let's say, in fact, it is still, let's say, important, it plays important role. In fact, it is the polity and constitution which operationalize this. So they will operationalize governance. The system of government and system of polity determines the core and character of governance. This. And it is governance which determines social justice. And in turn, again it influences polity and governance. This, isn't it? जब लोगों को जस्टिस नहीं मिला तभी तो रिजर्वेशन आया. जब रिजर्वेशन आया तो लोग डायरेक्ट यहाँ पे पार्टिसिपेट करने लगे. कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में भी चेंज हो गया और अभी आपको एक लॉलीपॉप दिया गया है विमेन रिजर्वेशन के लिए. Isn't it? और अगर ऐसे नहीं है तो ऐसे मान लो 73rd अमेंडमेंट एक्ट, 74th अमेंडमेंट एक्ट, राइट? तो 73rd अमेंडमेंट एक्ट, 74th अमेंडमेंट एक्ट bring change in polity, and that will bring change in, and that will improve social justice. This is what we have to understand. So they are interrelated. We cannot separate them. We cannot segregate them. And this we have to understand. So it means, let's say, entire paper, once when the time will come when we'll finish that, so you'll come to know about polity and constitution, and you'll come to know its strengths and weaknesses. Then you'll come to know why we came to governance, and you will also come to know about strengths and weaknesses of governance. And then you will come to know also about social justice and how we achieve social justice. So just to bring here, when we say together, this together brings here, this is how we have written the role of, let's say that you have non-profit institutions, we have civil society organization, we have pressure groups, we have self-help. I missed that point in this, let's say that, to self-help groups, and then we have private sector, right? और ये सबको बोला जाता है नॉन स्टेट एक्टर्स. We say them as non-state actor, let's say that. This you can say. They are non-state actors, that term can be used. Or you can say that कि इन लोगों को we say as third sector. So we say it as third sector. Or we say it as second sector. And first sector is this. So that is how we have to study in this paper also about government, about not much about private, but certainly more about civil society organization, non-profit institutions, and role of other. This is how. And you should know that in 90s onwards, their role has increased. So that way, this is how the relationship we can understand between these three sections of the syllabus. Now, let's understand the basics of, let's call, polity and constitution. So, what is polity, by the way? Very basic question.
An organized system of government.
The polity, when we say, the polity is basically related to a system of government. Polity relates to a system of government. Now, this system of government is, can we say that, as old as society? It is as old as society. We can relate to our ancient time, isn't it? So, all those things. India is mother of all democracies. This is how the document has been published. So, this will find this. So, basically, let's say it is as old as society. But we don't have to go that past, let's say that. If you take modern times, in modern times, this system of government, if you talk, so basically, if you talk 16th to let's say 19th, let's say centuries, so basically this system of government was nothing but a monarchical system, you can say this. Can we say? Or colonial system. This. So this is how it happens, let's say. But this brings, let's say, also evolution of modern democracy and constitutional system. Right. Like you will be aware that how US, Europe, they adopted liberal democracy and largely written constitution. This, which we'll talk here and there, just we are giving an overview, let's say. So there was a polity, let's say that. You know that there was monarchical system. If you take other countries, you may be aware about different types of revolutions. Let's say that we had revolution like English Revolution, first revolution. So English Revolution was also about democratic rights of people. This, so democratic rights of people, let's say we say English Revolution. And similarly, let's say that we can consider that we had French Revolution, we had American Revolution. So these revolutions which you will study in your history also. These revolutions were nothing but to overthrow this monarchical system or dictatorial system, whatever the system you can say. Monarchical system, dictatorial system, authoritarian regimes, whatever they had. And they wanted to talk that there should be a liberal democracy with written constitution, although UK being the exception, it did not have a written constitution, rather it decided to go by unwritten one. That also will talk here and there. This. Now, if we come close to let's say that India. Right. So we had also let's say polity, right? Modern polity. This. And this modern polity, let's say that, can be divided into one that is called colonial type. Right. Our polity was established, means system of government was established from 1773 to 1935. That is how established, which again you are familiar with. And then let's say that since 1947 onwards, let's say that, right, we have tried to bring a new polity, a new system, right. New polity. Right. And this new polity, right, is influenced by this and influenced by this. This is how it is. So our new polity will be, this is how reflection of what modern society adopted, plus what we also learned from this, which we say as a historical legacy. The topic is called historical underpinnings. This, and historical underpinnings are not only Indian historical underpinnings, they are also historical underpinnings in the context of world. This, so this is how we have to understand this polity, let's say, new polity, how the new polity is polity. Before that, let's say that when we say about constitution, so constitution we generally define as, constitution is a legal document which deals with government. Or let's say that if you talk, it is a rule book on how to govern. Yes. It is a rule book on how to govern. Basically, let's say constitution. So the relationship between constitution and polity is that, right? Constitution provides framework for polity. Right. Constitution is a basis, you can say that. The constitution is a basis, constitution is a framework, constitution is a foundation for any system of government or polity. Yes. Now, then the question comes, why we need constitution, isn't it? Why we need constitution? Right. So then this question also goes in, why we need a liberal polity or a modern polity. This, both questions, let's say. Why we need a constitution? तो इसका आंसर ऐसे है, isn't it? Krishna on chariot, isn't it? This. If Krishna is not on the chariot of Arjuna, so what will happen? This. So constitution, जो भी आप बोलो, जैसा भी आपका पर्सपेक्टिव हो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन के बारे में, और आजकल काफ़ी वैसे भी जिसको कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन जिसने कभी पढ़ा नहीं है वो बोलता है कि बदल दो इसको, राइट. बेसिकली वो कभी पढ़े नहीं कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन. आप पूछ सकते हो कि आर्टिकल 12 बता दो क्या होता है, ठीक है. तो जिसने पढ़ा नहीं है वो बोल रहा है कि कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन बदल दो. दिस anyhow, so basically then another basic question comes. The relationship, this is how, so whether you say it polity or whether you say constitution, in general both means the same. Whether you say polity or whether you say constitution. If constitution deals with polity, our polity is constitutionalized by a document, a written document. This, there will be close relationship, this you can say, between them. So this we can consider. Then question comes, let's say that, why we need a constitution? This. And that also brings why we need this. Both you can say. So then you have to go in the history, let's say. This, and if you go in history, basically let's say that if you talk the West, the rest, this, so the rest was colonized and West was, let's say that it was monarchical system they had. Whatever the thing you will find, right, you will find that both will have common things, right? And common things will be that first concentration of power. This second thing, that exploitation of people. Exploitation of people. This. So this is how you'll find that. And people were more treated as bechara, subject. Subject. This. So let's say that ideas, let's say that political philosophy. So all those political philosophy, right, led by, let's say that social contract is called Hobbes, Locke, Rousseau. This liberal school. This others. So this will find that there will be different, you can consider. What they started rejecting them. They all started rejecting an idea of, let's say that, what you can say, idea of, you will find equality, freedom, liberty, justice, rule of law. They just propagated all these things. This. So when they propagated these things, that is how our freedom struggle movement was also influenced. Right. If they had not propagated there, so we could have not got those things also. This idea, let's say, liberty, equality, freedom, independence, self-rule, this, that, all these things, getting inspired. That is what, let's say, that they started demanding in the context of this. And they started overthrowing this. Now, when they started overthrowing, so the question is that when new government comes, isn't it? When new government comes, let's say all these things started happening. Suppose a new state is formed or a new government is formed, especially in their countries. Then how we will guarantee that power is not concentrated? How will we guarantee that people are not exploited? And how we will guarantee that people are not treated as subject? Right. There should be something to guarantee this, and that something resulted into, let's say, you have Bill of Rights. First, it was brought in UK. This, although we link with US, this, the Bill of Rights that you can consider about rights which are guaranteed to people. This, which we say now as fundamental rights. This, that now how power will not be concentrated. The government should be elected. This, and when government is elected, system of election is there, so people should have that universal adult franchise. That itself shifts power to people. This we can say that. And the day you introduce system of elections, it becomes also liberal democracy because people start enjoying rights. This you can say. That is how system of election was, let's say, that introduced. Plus, let's say that still not adequate. Right. Then power should be divided. The two types of power should be, two ways power should be divided. One way is that between the three organs, we say separation of powers. And another way is between government units, we say as federal polity. This, so idea of separation of power was given, an idea of federal polity emerged. One political philosopher has told that federal polity is nothing but to ultimately, let's say, that ensure that people enjoy liberty. Federal polity is not about merely formation of federal state government, rather it divides the power in such a way that ultimately it benefits people. This you know that. So that's why, let's say, that we got federal polity also. This, they started guaranteeing, it is a guarantee, you know that. A sort of guarantee. If powers are divided into three organs, legislature, executive, judiciary, that is how three organs were born. The power should be divided into them. Then a government has multiple units. This, in them also power should be divided. And how power should be divided? So all these things that you are mentioning, they should be mentioned in written constitution. Because once you mention in written constitutions, it is difficult to change. Right. Why we adopted a written? Why you want to have a written constitution? This, the written constitution, it is difficult to change. नहीं तो अभी तक change हो गया होता है हमारा constitution. No, government needs 400. Right. Anyhow, but if constitution is not rigid, so constitution can be changed very easily. Let's say even of the first written constitution, that is called US, which has just 27 amendments. This you should know that. It is the most rigid constitution. So basically what you have to learn is that, see, there was already system of polity. But that system of polity is a monarchical system. This, I guess. Yes. Anyhow, means what we are trying to say is that in history, if you see, in before modern times, so we had a monarchical system. In our country, it was not monarchical system, rather we had colonial system. Yes, it's another matter that before colonial system, we had monarchical system. Medieval time, ancient time, you can see that. So we also had monarchical system, but in modern time there was a colonial system. Most of the developing countries, they had colonial system, and most of the western countries, they had centralized dictatorial or authoritarian system, which we say also monarchical system. बट लोगों में कहीं ना कहीं वो आया होगा ना अवेयरनेस. इमेजिन करो, व्हेन वी विल टीच यू फंडामेंटल राइट्स, यू विल रियलाइज मोर कि लोगों ने, एक पर्सन ने नहीं, 1 लाख नहीं, 1 करोड़ नहीं, millions of people have given their life for this, what we are talking. इसके लिए millions of people have given their life. So there is a history behind, and there is a blood behind, this sacrifice behind, when you talk rule of law, when you talk separation of powers. इसलिए कि पहली बार जिन्होंने बात किया होगा उनकी क्या हालत हुई होगी पता है आपको. कि king should not have this power. This. So when first time one king raided UK Parliament, which we'll tell you again when we'll teach Parliament, bicameral legislature and role of speaker. So when king in UK raided UK Parliament, the speaker of the Parliament did not allow him to enter. This. The king asked, where are the members? Basically, members brought, I guess, a bill against the king. So, the king asked to his speaker, where are those members? The speaker said, I will not tell you. The speaker protected, defended his members' autonomy. That is immunity and privileges of members of parliament. So, कभी न कभी किसी ने राइट सैक्रिफाइस किया है उस रूल ऑफ लॉ के लिए, उस लिबरल डेमोक्रेसी के लिए. दिस यू शुड नो, which today you find when we talk all these things. So, that is what separation of power, that is how Bill of Rights you can say. And a written constitution is difficult to amend. That's why we need a constitution. It means constitution is a guarantee for constitutional governance. This constitution is a guarantee for a polity to work in a proper manner. This means constitution is necessity for a polity to work in such a manner that people enjoy their democratic rights and they can have a dignified life. This you can say. That is how the background you can say, although when we'll talk details you will know this. So it means, let's say कि polity and constitution both will undergo change. This, the constitution, so this is what we have to understand, the features of the constitution and other details. This, what is that constitution, what are major features of that. And any constitution will have these 3 major features. This you can say. Although all polity may not be federal, but it does not matter. There can be, let's say, exception that we can say. So this is what, let's say, we can say polity. This is what we can say about constitution. Now, this was the idea, let's say that. What we are here we are having. So we have the idea that if we give fundamental rights to people, and if there is a system of elected government, and then we try to share powers, right? And those power sharing is among the 3 organs, and then the government units and its machineries, let's say that, which can be U also means bureaucracy. So let's say that units and machineries. This machineries are what? Let's say CAG. The CAG is one government machinery. UPSC is another government machinery. The power is shared. इसलिए आपका मेरिट बेस्ड सिलेक्शन होता है, बट वो स्टेट में नहीं होता है. This. the power is divided, let's say that. This is what you have to understand. The power is divided among, let's say that, states plus machineries plus 3 organs, that way. So we thought that these things, I have told that these things will guarantee better governance. Can we say? These things will guarantee better governance. That is traditional idea. Right? It is a traditional idea. So let's take social justice. See, we are talking in the context of no. Main motive of constitution is to govern better. Yes, and if we are able to govern better, there will be social justice. The social justice can be one as ultimate aim.
Like we can govern anybody from any institution, from anything. So why only constitution is needed?
Why?
The constitution is needed.
Right. Why constitution is needed? Right. That is how we told here. Let's say. See, I gave the background. Right. कि आपको ये सब पता ही होगा. राइट आपने हिस्ट्री सारा पढ़ा होगा. बट अपने इंडिया में भी आप देख लो कॉलोनियल टाइम था. तो यू नो दैट कि पावर इज कंसंट्रेटेड. जैसे व्हेन विल टॉक यू 73 to 35, they will tell that कि power was concentrated in the hand of Governor General. You know that? You know that कि Governor General was also kept outside the purview of Supreme Court. The Supreme Court which was set up at Calcutta, Governor General was not under its purview. Right? The Governor General enjoyed power. Right? This, and when Governor General enjoys power, the how Governor General exercises, right? With machineries of the government. This machinery क्या करती है कि वो जो ऑर्डर होगा फॉलो करेगी. तो पुलिस ने क्या किया, किसी को भी जेल में डाल दो. Isn't it? उसको आप इस तरीके से समझो. अभी क्या चल रहा है वाराणसी में, जो न्यूज आ रहा है, राइट, कि नॉमिनेशंस नहीं फाइल हो रहा है, ऐसा न्यूज है. वो न्यूज गलत भी हो सकता है, राइट, बिकॉज वी डू नॉट नो द एक्चुअल सिचुएशन. ठीक है, बट क्या नाम है, रंगीला, क्या नाम है उसका, ही डज मिमिक्री ऑफ प्राइम मिनिस्टर.
Standing against prime minister in same constitution.
Yes, basically in Varanasi, I will try to tell you this way. It has nothing to do with prime minister, right? In Varanasi, people are filing nominations to contest election against prime minister, or they want to contest election. ठीक है? Now it is your right as a citizen, if you have those qualifications, so you can stand in election. If you want to contest election, and since there is a system of independent member you can be, it is not necessary that you should belong to a political party. So you can stand in election from any constituency. This, it is your democratic right. Now, as per report, that they are not being, let's say, that allowed to file nomination, right? Why? Because those who are administrators, उनको मान लो order मिला होगा कि do not allow. Let's take hypothetical as per news report, right? Now, how that person right will be defended? How? तो कहीं ना कहीं लॉ में, चाहे वो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन हो सकता है या कोई लॉ हो सकता है, कोई रूल हो सकता है, जिसमें ये लिखा गया होगा कि इस तरह के सिचुएशन में, राइट, व्हाट आर द सेफगार्ड्स? One safeguard can be the candidate can directly go to High Court, and High Court can order to returning officer to accept his nomination, right? So your right is protected by Constitution. Yes, that is how it is important. Right. So since governments can become exploitative, we cannot trust governments, because the historical past says that you cannot trust government. Government is known for misusing powers. This. So ये सारा हिस्ट्री जो पॉलिटिकल हिस्ट्री है वो तो इसी के ऊपर है. आप कॉलोनियल पास्ट में देख सकते हैं ना कि कैसे द ब्रिटिश रूल एक्सप्लॉइटेड इंडियंस. हिस्ट्री पढ़ा होगा आपने. अब हम उसको कैसे, जब हम इंडिपेंडेंस हमें क्यों चाहिए? लेट मी टेल व्हाई वी वांट इंडिपेंडेंस, व्हाई वी फॉट फॉर इंडिपेंडेंस. वी फॉट फॉर इंडिपेंडेंस फॉर ए डिग्निफाइड लाइफ ना. अल्टीमेटली यही तो होगा. यू वांट टू लिव ए डिग्निफाइड, व्हाट इज दैट डिग्निफाइड लाइफ? योर फ्रीडम, योर लिबर्टी, इक्वालिटी. फ्रीडम, आप यहां आ रहे हो तो यहां आ जाओ, यहां से जा रहे हो तो घर चले जाओ. Isn't it? So then आपको जो, आपको मान लो कि जो जॉब ज्वाइन करना है आप कर सकते हैं, जिस तरह का लाइफ जीना है आप जी सकते हैं. यही तो डिग्निफाइड लाइफ होगा ना, राइट? ये कब मिलेगा? जब इंडिपेंडेंस होगा, आपके राइट्स होंगे, और अगर कोई आपके राइट्स को ऑब्स्ट्रक्ट करता है तो सेफगार्ड होना चाहिए. लाइक गवर्नमेंट ने बोल दिया कि जो इंजीनियर्स है दे आर नॉट एलिजिबल फॉर यूपीएससी सिविल सर्विस एग्जामिनेशन. क्या करोगे आप? पार्लियामेंट्री स्टैंडिंग कमेटी. The parliamentary standing committee has raised concern that those who are engineers and doctors, right, so they are not going to their field. मान लो हाइपोथेटिकली लेट से ऐसा होगा नहीं, बट गवर्नमेंट ने ये बोला कि जो डॉक्टर्स हैं, इंजीनियर्स हैं, दे आर नॉट एलिजिबल फॉर यूपीएससी. अब आप क्या करोगे? आपको कोर्ट जाना पड़ेगा. कोर्ट क्या करेगा? लॉ को देखेगा. तो अगर लॉ नहीं रहेगा तो कोर्ट भी एक्ट नहीं कर सकता है. कई बार आपने सुना होगा ना कि कोर्ट नहीं इंटरवीन करता है व्हेन देयर इज नो लॉ, राइट? तो लॉ इज इंपॉर्टेंट, लॉ इज नेसेसिटी. और उसी लॉ को आप कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल लॉ भी कह सकते हैं और सिर्फ लॉ भी बोल सकते हैं, राइट? ये डिफरेंस आपको धीरे धीरे समझ में आएगा कि कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल लॉ जो होता है वो फंडामेंटल लॉ होता है. जैसे हमारा कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन है, इट इज सुप्रीम. दिस बाकी जो भी लॉज है वो उसके सबऑर्डिनेट है. दिस अब उसको सुप्रीम क्यों दिया गया है? राइट, बिकॉज इट इज रिलेटेड टू ऑल सिटीजन्स. दिस so that's why it should be supreme, otherwise we cannot govern this. And I was talking the history behind these things. We are talking the history behind to relate you what is polity, what is constitution, this, and why we need a polity, why we need a constitution, right? I think it is clear this. But I was talking thereafter we were talking this. So just wanted to give, we are now near to this. तो we told that कि let's say ऐसा नहीं कि यूरोप वेस्ट में पहले ही आ गया था सब कुछ. तो वेस्टर्न कंट्रीज दे लेट्स से 1776 में ही हो गया था सब कुछ, राइट. 76, 1789, you know that they adopted a written constitution. War of Independence there was also. So US got independence. Then US revolution happens. US adopted a written constitution. The first written constitution is adopted in 1789. जब हमारे यहाँ अभी शुरू भी नहीं हुआ था कुछ भी, राइट. तो उन्होंने, राइट, they adopted first written constitution, right. But we are focusing here, right, because most of the countries started, especially developing countries, thereafter, right. So by 1940s and 50s, after World War II, we can say that most of the countries adopted a liberal polity and a written constitution. This, the most of the countries adopted a liberal polity with written constitution. हम ये सब क्यों बता रहे हैं? इसलिए कि 80s वाला बताना है हमें आपको कि 80s वाला टाइम क्यों आता है. अब देखो, ये जो लिबरल पॉलिटी विथ रिटन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन है, इस प्रिंसिपल पे बेस्ड है कि अगर हमारे पास लोगों को फंडामेंटल राइट्स दिया जाता है, इफ सिटीजन्स एंजॉय फंडामेंटल राइट्स, देयर इज सेपरेशन ऑफ पावर्स, देयर इज डिवीजन ऑफ पावर between different units, this, and there is a written constitution. 4 factors you remember, 4 major factors, isn't it? There is a written constitution, a liberal democracy, let's say citizens, they enjoy rights. Next, there is a sharing of power, division of power, federal polity, all these things, if power is shared. So all these things bring better governance. और उस बेटर गवर्नेंस को आप ऐसे भी बोल सकते हैं कि दे विल रिजल्ट इनटू रूल ऑफ लॉ, राइट. एंड इट विल नॉट ओनली रिजल्ट इनटू रूल ऑफ लॉ, इट विल आल्सो रिजल्ट इनटू वेलफेयर. जैसे हमारा कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन है, राइट, हमने भी रिटन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में मेंशन किया है ना, वेलफेयर स्टेट, DPSP, isn't it? Our constitution, be it preamble or DPSP, also envisages for welfare society. This, अब ये डिफरेंस ये समझना कि देखो, वेस्टर्न सोसाइटी में डेवलपमेंट तो इंडस्ट्रियल रेवोल्यूशन से हो गया, इसलिए वहां स्टेट का रोल वेलफेयर नहीं होता है. लेकिन डेवलपिंग कंट्रीज में डेवलपमेंट स्टेट को लाना है, राइट. State has to bring development in developing countries. Hence, state has also role of. That's why 5-year planning, this, that we started, isn't it? But we'll not go into this. Basically, let's say that we wanted that this polity says that welfare, rule of law would be possible if we have those characteristics or a liberal government, liberal polity, and a written constitution, in which there will be separation of power, federal polity, elected government, citizens enjoy rights, right. So that way we will govern better, right. Now let's say journey goes back, means goes, let's say forward, let's say that moves, and let's take 1980s, 90s. This. Now, lots of developments happened, and those developments started reconceptualizing the things, redefining the things, reconceptualizing the things, right. What reconceptualizing? जैसे आपने सिटीजन्स को फंडामेंटल राइट्स दे दिया, बट वो एक्सरसाइज कैसे करेगा? right? आपको मान लो कि पैसा दे दिया, पैसा बोलोगे कि हम खर्च कर देंगे, मतलब मान लो आप किसी ने आपको ले से दैट कि 10,000 करोड़ दे दिया, आपको क्या करोगे? Yesterday I told you, absorb body, let's say that, right? So you will not be able to spend, but आप इलन मस्क को दे दो तो वो खर्च कर देगा, isn't it? क्यों? He has ability to spend. So gradually we started realizing, see, merely separation of powers, having a good legal document, having an elected government may not result into translation into action. Right? Means even if citizens are given power, but they should be capable of exercising that power. No? This and rule of law will not be automatically achieved. This rule of law should be there, but who will enforce rule of law? This we have elected government, पर क्या हो रहा है पता ही है आपको, राइट? इलेक्शंस में क्या क्या हो रहा है, मारपीट हो रहा है, ये हो रहा है, पैसा टेम्पो में जाता है, अब तो पता चल गया। प्राइम मिनिस्टर ने ही रिवील कर दिया कि ब्लैक मनी टेम्पो से पहुंचाया जाता है। Anyhow, तो बेसिकली अगर आप ये देखोगे कि लोगों का सिचुएशन इंप्रूव नहीं होता है, राइट? जैसे अभी भी गवर्नमेंट अगर कहीं ना कहीं एक डिसएडवांटेज में है इलेक्शंस में, तो इसीलिए है कि कुछ ऐसे इश्यूज है जो गवर्नमेंट ने सॉल्व नहीं किया है, जो और पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज दे आर ट्राइंग टू कन्विंस पीपल, isn't it? So basically we started realizing, let's say, जैसे आप पार्लियामेंट है तो पार्लियामेंट आपने बना दिया, बट पार्लियामेंट फंक्शन कैसे करेगा? गवर्नमेंट यू हैव मेड, बट हाउ द गवर्नमेंट विल वर्क, वेदर गवर्नमेंट विल वर्क फॉर पीपल, पीपल हैव बीन गिवन फंडामेंटल राइट्स, बट यहां तो एनकाउंटर हो रहा है। दिस और बहुत सारे स्कीम्स एंड प्रोग्राम्स है, there were so many schemes, programs for poverty alleviation, making life of people better, but it was realized that things did not improve even if we had a written constitution, even if we had elected government, people enjoyed fundamental rights, there was separation of power, there is a federal polity, but still they were not able to govern as better. Hence, new set of political philosophers. This is all fine. Let's say Amartya Sen, let's say John Rawls, like other liberal, let's say neo-liberals, who can Nozick, Hayek, Friedman, जिसको बोला जाता है. So they, let's say that. Social economist, you can say. Jadre, you can consider. Mahbubul Haq, you can say. Different types of concept they started talking, जिसको बोलते हैं Human Development Index. Right. So all these things started coming. This, and therefore, let's say, just to reduce all these things, what they started saying is that, see, whatever the system they were talking, those system will not result into effective governance. Why? Because even if power was divided, but we depended more on government, still power remained with the government, among the government machineries, right? Be it judiciary, legislature, executive, CAG, bureaucracy, this and that. So kahin na kahin power remained in their hand itself. Still power did not reach to people hand. And then it was expected that the government, the district magistrate or block development officer, they will work for people. But they did not necessarily work for people. Therefore, a new set of things they started talking. And those new set of things, let's say, resulted into emergence of governance. This is how it started. There started, let's say, governance, or you can say that good governance. And another set which is not part of our polity is called LPG, liberalization, privatization, and globalization. And that has influenced your economy like anything, right? And economy, etc., going also that now development happens through more this. और इसी का इन्फ्लुएंस है कि सिविल सर्विस में भी लेटरल एंट्री हो रहा है right? तो ये सब आप पूरा पॉलिटी जब समझोगे तो समझ में आएगा. तो मेजर एस्पेक्ट वाज दिस, right? Means what they started talking is the power should shift. Once again, let's say here what happened, power. So here power was democratized, I will say. Power was democratized. But it remained in the hand of the government. Now here what we are doing, power is shifted, right, to this private, third sector, people in general. This इवन इफ कि आज ये सारी चीज़ें आपको नहीं समझ में आएगा, जो लोग थोड़े नए हैं, बाद में आपको ये सब अच्छे से समझ में आएगा एक तरीके से कि व्हाट वी वर बेसिकली ट्राइंग टू से, राइट. सो पावर शिफ्टेड. अब हम क्या चाहते हैं कि पावर ये कहाँ से, गवर्नमेंट से पावर कहाँ शिफ्ट हो जाए, पीपल. लेट्स से पीपल कैन बी अल्टीमेट एस्पेक्ट दिस, एंड लेट्स से कि basically power goes to private or third sector. You understand like this? That's government, administration, people. ये ट्रेडिशनल है this. तो ये तो दोनों एक ही है this. तो पावर स्टिल रिमेन्ड हियर, पावर इन्हीं के पास रहा. फिर जो सिस्टम इवॉल्व हुआ था लेट्स से 1950s, लेकिन जो 1980s 90s वी हैव गवर्नमेंट, वन वी हैव एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन, अदर वी हैव एक्टर्स, अल्टीमेट एस्पेक्ट people. This, so this has, let's say, resulted into power shifting to people. This, और हमें इसी पॉलिटी को पढ़ना है. This new polity, this is can consider the how it has shifted. All these story, let's say the power has shifted. Let's take just basic example like जैसे प्राइवेट सेक्टर है. आजकल पावर सप्लाई आपके घर में कहाँ से आता है, प्राइवेट सेक्टर. मीटरिंग ऑल दीज थिंग्स डन बाय प्राइवेट सेक्टर. आपके पेरेंट्स के साथ ही एक्सपीरियंस नहीं होगा, राइट. इन योर पेरेंट्स टाइम आइदर पावर नहीं होगा या पावर था तो इट वॉज इन द हैंड ऑफ स्टेट. अभी मोस्ट ऑफ द लेट्स से पार्ट ऑफ योर लाइफ मीन्स मोस्ट ऑफ द योर एक्टिविटीज इन योर लाइफ आर गवर्न बाय प्राइवेट सेक्टर, राइट. आपके हाथ में जो फोन है वो भी प्राइवेट का है, कनेक्शन है वो भी प्राइवेट का है. पहले आपके पेरेंट्स के टाइम में लैंडलाइन फोन होता था, MTNL, राइट. So government, so that way you will find this. So whatever, let's say that कि things were done in past, they were done by government. अब आप इस चीज को समझोगे कि क्यों प्राइवेट सेक्टर क्यों पावर डिलीवर करेगा. तो डज इट डिलीवर बेटर देन गवर्नमेंट? this, yes, it does deliver better than government. Efficiency, metering, you can say that. तो योर बिल, अभी भी जैसे जो अच्छे सिटीज़ हैं वहाँ पे प्राइवेटाइजेशन है, तो आपकी एफिशिएंसी है ना, जितना यूनिट आप लेट्स से दैट कि कंज्यूम करते हो आपका बिल ऐसे ही आता है. जैसे ही थोड़ा सा बिल ज़्यादा हो गया आप जाके कंप्लेन कर देते हो. लेकिन अभी भी आई विल टेल एटलीस्ट इन उत्तर प्रदेश, सो इट इज नॉट लाइक दैट. अभी भी बिल क्या होता है, वो लमसम में आता है. राइट. सोचो लमसम में बिल आता है. अब बिल लमसम में आता है तो कोई गरीब परिवार है, मान लो पुअर फैमिली है, उसमें मान लो 2 ही लोग हैं, उसका भी बिल उतना ही आ रहा है जितना कि एक फैमिली में 10 लोग हैं. और किसी ने मान लो कि 2 महीना वो रहे ही नहीं वहां पर, फिर भी उसके पास बिल आया. इट इज नॉट कॉल्ड एफिशिएंसी. बट अगर इसी को प्राइवेटाइज कर दोगे आप, व्हेन यू कंज्यूम यू पे, व्हेन यू डू नॉट कंज्यूम यू डू नॉट पे. सो इट इज एबल. सिमिलरली लेट्स से कि वी डोंट हैव टू टेल सिविल सोसाइटी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, जो आपका डेवलपमेंट इंडस्ट्री वाला टॉपिक है, डेवलपमेंट मैनेजमेंट, डोनर, चैरिटेबल, सिविल सोसाइटी, सेल्फ हेल्प ग्रुप्स, दिस इज हाउ आई नो दैट. सो सिंपल एग्जाम्पल लेते हैं, जैसे बैंक्स हैं. बैंक्स विल नेवर बी एबल टू रीच आउट टू मोस्ट पुअर पीपल, जिसको लेट्स से अगर उनको फाइनेंशियल हेल्प चाहिए तो बैंक्स तो उनको दे नहीं सकता है कि उनको 5,000 चाहिए, 1,000 चाहिए. ठीक. और बैंक में अकाउंट उनका है नहीं. बैंक्स में कई बार मिनिमम आपको बैलेंस रखना पड़ता है. दिस, तो आपको पता ही होगा इकोनॉमी इज आवर लार्जली इनफॉर्मल सेक्टर. अब उसके लिए एक नया कंसेप्ट आता है सेल्फ हेल्प ग्रुप. दिस यू कैन से एज फाइनेंशियल इंटरमीडियरीज. सो बेसिकली लेट्स से दैट कि दे कैन complement role of state, supplement role of state. This similarly people 73rd, 74th. So what happens thereafter? That we were saying that कि no, federal polity will be able to govern, separation of power will be able to govern, fundamental rights will ensure, let's say, right to people, but they may not automatically deliver unless you create a situation. And they help in creating that situation. Basically, they make people capable of exercising their right to freedom, liberty, equality, whatever the right. This. And that way, let's say, it will result into better governance. Right. So that is how things have gone, let's say that. Now if you talk, present 2024, which we are, so at present let's say that it's more of, आपने कई बार टर्म सुना होगा कि we have collaborative governance. आप गवर्नेंस की बात कर सकते हो, डेवलपमेंट की बात कर सकते हो, कोई भी है वो क्या हो गया, कोलैबोरेटिव. जीएस पेपर सेकेंड में ये टर्म यूज किया गया था 2019 में. दिस कोलैबोरेटिव. दिस, और आप जब जुडिशरी की आप सुनोगे या जब न्यूज़ में आर्टिकल्स लिखे जाते हैं न्यूज़पेपर में आपके, तो बहुत ही लेट्स से कि ऑफन दे विल राइट कोलैबोरेटिव गवर्नेंस, राइट, कोलैबोरेटिव डेवलपमेंट, कलेक्टिव लेट्स से दैट दिस. सो दिस वे यू कैन से, यार आपने सुना होगा कोऑपरेटिव फेडरलिज्म, कॉम्पिटिटिव फेडरलिज्म, दिस. सो there are, let's say, changes in the, let's say that ki lexicon, you can say that ki the words that we talk nowadays, right? So basically nature of polity has got transformed, and gradually let's say that ki if I draw another thing, if you talk let's say ki power, the power has gradually, or if you let's say that the power is gradually, let's say, expanding. Let's say if people are there, this power is gradually, let's say that, reaching in the hand of people, you can say this. Right. You can say that in 1950s, power was still concentrated, but gradually if you talk today, the power is highly shared, you can say that. It is shared, it is diversified, it is diverse. You have today more rights, you have today more powers. फिर भी आप satisfied नहीं हैं, क्यों? Yes. तो जो आपके पेरेंट्स का एस्पिरेशन था वो आपका नहीं है. Aspirations have changed. Quality of life has changed. Right. The quality of life has changed. Aspirations have changed. And at the same time, the world has also changed. The standards in the world have also changed. This. अब मेट्रो भी आ गया तो उससे भी गवर्नमेंट हार जाती है इलेक्शन. तो गवर्नमेंट ये बोले कि नहीं हमने मेट्रो बनाया. ठीक है, बनाया आपने. तो मेट्रो बन गया, इतना सारा रोड बन गया. प्रेजेंट गवर्नमेंट ने नितिन गडकरी काफी रोड बनाया है, उनको क्या नाम बोला जाता है उनके लिए. फिर भी सुनने में आता है कि नागपुर से जितना थोड़ा चैलेंज है उनके लिए. जो पॉलिटिकल एनालिसिस है. तो इतना सारा गवर्नमेंट ने रोड बनाया है, राइट. क्रेडिट गोज टू द गवर्नमेंट, बट आप सेटिस्फाइड नहीं है. अब आपको वहाँ चेक पोस्ट पे रुकना नहीं पड़ता है, isn't it? वो क्या चलता है, फास्टैग चलता है, राइट. सोचो फास्टैग को हटा दो एक दिन, देखो क्या होता है. राइट. सो लाइफ इतना ज़्यादा आपका, लेट्स से दैट कि यू हैव बेटर इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर, गुड, मोर राइट्स, बट स्टिल यू आर नॉट सेटिस्फाइड. व्हाई? एस्पिरेशंस, challenges, standards, they have also changed. This, so when they have changed, even if power more people have, but still there is a talk that power should go to people. Right. 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 ये एंड नहीं होगा. राइट. इसलिए कि अभी तो पावर डिवॉल्व नहीं हुआ है, एंड उसी में चेंज होता रहेगा. मतलब एक होता है कि पावर गया, फिर कभी एक टाइम आएगा कि पावर रिवर्स होने लगेगा. रिवर्सल होगा, फिर होगा कि पावर like let's say कि some countries like Turkey, you can say that the power is getting concentrated. There was a time कि power went to people, अब उन्होंने पावर को कंसंट्रेट किया. तो ये चलता रहेगा एक तरीके से. Means how to govern will remain dynamic. This is how we have to understand how much power you should give to people, how much power you should give to the government. That is important. So giving completely power in the hand of the people is also not the task. This we have to understand. There should be centralization also and decentralization also. So basically what, let's say that what we can say, I think paper disorder, yes. So basically this idea we try to give you, in which we have given, let's say that 4 stages, which we can say 3 stages of evolution. First stage is before, when monarchical system was there, and there was a system of polity, which you will understand when we will take our 1773 to 1935. तो ये आपको समझ में आएगा. Then you will understand this when we will teach you entire polity, basically traditional polity. What was constitution, the separation of powers, the 3 organs, machineries of the government. This is how we will teach you. You will understand this. Then when we will start teaching you social justice, governance, you will start understanding this. And in that also we will try to relate with present. Present till present, what has happened. Like say कि अगर हम federal polity यहाँ से शुरू करते हैं, तो we tell how it has changed, and then we talk here how there is collaborative federal polity. Then how there is collaborative development, तो यहाँ पे development सिर्फ government was doing, but then it started decentralizing. अभी क्या है वो collaborative है. Just so this is what you have to get idea about, let's say, about polity, that how it has changed basically from government to governance. This, and what you learn that here we thought that government alone would be able to govern better, right? But then the idea came that no, government must govern together. Government should govern by sharing powers. This, that way, let's say that. And that is what the relation or the journey that we wanted to write, let's say that. This, which will summarize in few things. So let's write on this. Right. Polity is about system of government. System of government, which is as old as society. As old as society. However, in modern times, polity is characterized by a liberal system of democratic governance. Based on principles of liberty, equality, freedom, and justice. Next, Constitution is a legal document which deals with machineries of the government. It has also evolved with the evolution of modern liberal democracy. It provides a legal framework to polity. Governance is about collectively solving the problems of society. Change paragraph. Traditionally, it was believed that the liberal democratic polity would be able to govern better and maintain rule of law. However, by 1980s and 90s, it was realized that a new system of governance was needed. In which people should play people should play most dominant role rather than the government. Rather than the government. Hence, the power should devolve to people. Power should devolve to people. This idea gave rise to governance and good governance. Governance and good governance. Like social justice. Social justice. It is about justice for the most vulnerable people. The most vulnerable people. It is based on the idea that unless poorest of the poor gets justice, justice has no meaning. Justice has no meaning. Right. This justice can be achieved. Justice can be achieved not only through government machineries, but also through participation of other stakeholders. Including civil society organization, non-profit institutions, and private sector. Therefore, in a way, the relationship between polity, governance, and social justice is first. It is the polity and constitution which delivers governance. Next, it is the governance which delivers social justice. Next, it is the social justice which influences polity and constitution. Hence, there is a cyclical relationship. Between them. And today's polity is different from modern polity. As it has greater level of decentralization of powers in the hand of people, and still there is demand for further decentralization. Further decentralization. Therefore, the journey of polity or system of government has gone through three major phases. First, monarchical and colonial past. Monarchical and colonial past. Second, modern liberal democracy. And third, governance, social justice, and collaborative governance. Governance. That is what we can say. This is a sort of relationship which you should understand. These things help you in understanding. You have to also understand that yesterday we told knowledge and understanding of the 4 papers help you write essay. This you should know that also. So that's why it is important to know and let's have a perspective how the things have evolved. And I was saying, which we keep saying again so many times, कि लोगों ने रूल ऑफ लॉ के लिए जान दिया है. दिस यू शुड नो दैट कि डिग्निटी कितना इम्पोर्टेंट होता है. सो वो अभी एक और मूवी वेब सीरीज आया है, क्या नाम है वो, लाहौर बेस्ड इट इज, यस, हीरा मंडी. Yes. Hira Mandi is one web series, and so in that web series, let's say again, कि people are fighting for their dignity. Right. So then, कि how people are exploited in, let's say, police lockup. Right. And then you think the same thing in today actual practice in police lockup. Right. तो पुलिस लॉकअप में अभी भी वही होता है जो पहले होता था. राइट. और कैसे लोगों को एक्सप्लॉइट किया जाता है अब तो पता ही है, आपने बहुत सारी चीजें देखा होगा. सो देन द क्वेश्चन इज कि व्हाट लेट्स से कि डिफरेंस यू हैव व्हेन यू लिव इन एन इंडिपेंडेंट इंडिया and when you lived in a monarchical colonial system. तो क्या उस पुलिस वाले को कुछ ऐसा डिफरेंस लगता है? दिस इज द क्वेश्चन. बिकॉज उस सिटीजन के पास राइट है और देयर इज ए सिस्टम ऑफ लॉ. ब्रिटिश के टाइम पे सिस्टम ऑफ लॉ नहीं था. यही समझना है आपको पॉलिटी के बारे में. यस. सो द क्वेश्चन इज दैट इज हाउ इट इज इम्पॉर्टेंट टू नो कि व्हाई पीपल fought for their dignity, their right, their equality, their voice. This you can say this. And that is how the past. Now, अब जब लॉकअप में लोगों के साथ एक्सप्लॉयटेशन होता है तो आप क्या करोगे? जो ट्रेडिशनल सेफगार्ड लाया गया था वो तो काम कर नहीं रहा है. राइट. जैसे कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन है, आर्टिकल्स है फंडामेंटल राइट्स में, प्रिवेंटिव डिटेंशन है, सेफगार्ड्स है, ये सारी चीजें दिया गया है लोगों को, पर वो भी वर्क नहीं कर रहा है. अब क्या करोगे आप? तो फिर आपके पास दूसरा ऑप्शन है कि लोगों को पावर दो। लोगों को पावर दिया जाए, तो जैसे आरटीआई लगाया गया, तब आरटीआई से ये जानेंगे लोग कि ये कब अरेस्ट किया गया था। दिस, बट आरटीआई में नॉट ऑल्सो वर्क। सिविल सोसाइटी को लाया गया कि सिविल सोसाइटी प्रेशर बनाएगा, तो सिविल सोसाइटी आता है, सिविल सोसाइटी भी नहीं वर्क करता है, देन ह्यूमन राइट्स को लाया गया। So this we have to understand, let's say that कि traditional polity you have, it is important, but at the same time let's say कि that alone is not going to deliver rights to people. Right? एक गरीब आदमी को पता ही नहीं चलेगा कि उसके फैमिली को कब आपने अरेस्ट किया, राइट, और उसको लॉकअप में आपने देखा। अभी तो ये केस है ना आपके कर्नाटक या तमिलनाडु का केस, कर्नाटक या तमिलनाडु का ये केस था, कर्नाटक का केस है ये, राइट, कि वो क्या केस था मैं भूल गया थोड़ा बहुत। पुलिस राइट, और पुलिस को सिर्फ ट्रांसफर कर दिया गया, ऐसा ही कुछ केस था। तो कोर्ट ने बोला, जज ने पूछा कि अभी तक ये सर्विस में कैसे है, अभी तक वो सर्विस में कैसे है, सस्पेंड क्यों नहीं किया? तो फिर वो कोर्ट को बोलता है कि आप कह रहे हैं तो हम लोग अब सस्पेंड कर देंगे। तो जज बोलता है कि आप हमसे मत बोलो, आप अपने सरकार से जाके बोलो कि आपके यहाँ क्या हो रहा है। दिस anyhow, तो just to tell it that कि polity that you have, rule of law that you have, detention that you have, आज ही कोई एक आर्टिकल आया है, लेट्स से गुंडाज एक्ट, एक्सप्लेनेशन आया है, शायद हिंदू में एक्सप्लेनेशन आया है कि हाउ गुंडाज एक्ट इज अप्लाइड। ठीक है, उसका नाम ही है गुंडाज एक्ट, और जिसमें जो गुंडाज है वो तो बाहर रहते हैं, जो गुंडाज नहीं है वो अरेस्ट हो जाते हैं, राइट। और उसका प्रोविजन ये है कि आपको 1 साल तक 12 महीने तक गवर्नमेंट डिटेन कर सकती है। कैन यू इमेजिन, किसी भी पर्सन को 12 महीने तक वो डिटेन कर सकते हैं, राइट। 3 months, लेट्स से दैट कि 3 months, हर जैसे प्रेसिडेंट्स रूल होता है उसी तरीके से कि 3 months के बाद आपको इसको फर्दर एक्सटेंड करना होता है। अभी यूपी में बहुत सारे लोग गुंडाज एक्ट में बंद है। सो गुंडाज एक्ट लेट्स से आज ही आया, हिंदू में आप पढ़ोगे तो अब उसका सेफगार्ड क्या है, दिस दैट इज हाउ द पॉलिटी यू हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड। तो बेसिकली लेट्स से जैसे कि आप 11 persons वर लेफ्ट, लेट्स से 11 persons वर लेट्स से कि रिलीज्ड फ्रॉम जेल in Bilkis Bano case. This. Now, she is not in a position to approach court. तो सिविल सोसाइटी ने, बहुत सारे सिविल सोसाइटी ने केस फाइल किया। ये छोड़ो, ये थोड़ा कंट्रोवर्शियल केस है, लेते हैं मान लो इलेक्ट्रल बॉन्ड का केस। इलेक्ट्रल बॉन्ड वाला केस किसने फाइल किया? इतना बड़ा जजमेंट किसके वजह से आया है? सिविल सोसाइटी। The civil society organization, let's say People's Union of Civil Liberty and ADR, Association for Democratic Reforms, they filed petition in the court. And you can imagine, because it's such a big judgment, this role of civil society. So this is what we are trying to explain, let's say that in outset, that the polity, when we talk, there is a system of government, but the system of government may not automatically convert better governance unless people also become part of that. Now, how people will become part of that? So people can become part of that through different means, let's say that. Like you can be an entrepreneur, you can be a private, let's say, businessman, person, let's say. That way you can play a role. You can be civil society organization, you can be a non-profit, you can have charitable institution, you can have a self-help group, let's say that. You can be cooperative society. So all these things that they have added, and that way you can participate, that way we can govern better. This, and that is how we can explain about the syllabus factor, let's say. As far as sources, let's say that, then we'll talk sources of reading. Polity constitution. We are updating our notes, so you'll get so in this week you'll get notes, and time to time you will get it. That's why we have not given printed notes so far, because we are updating it and making it better than past. So you can use this. See, basically, let's say that class, whatever we teach in the class, since we dictate proper things, so it is adequate enough. But that is largely for your mains examination. This, to have a proper understanding for prelims, right, you can take either Lakshmikant, this, because it is the, let's say that, basic and main source. This, although authenticity is a problem at times, but still it is workable. This, so you can read. It is not necessary that you should go by DD Basu. If you want to get better understanding, polity, आप थोड़ा सा चाहते हो, yes. So DD Basu is a very, let's say, I will tell you that ki highly, let's say that ki a very high standard of book. This, it enlightens you. This you can say. So if you have that kind of interest, then you can take it. Otherwise, it is not needed. Now, NCERT you can read. If you, polity you do not understand, right? The basic things you do not understand, like say liberty, freedom, democracy, federal polity, this different aspects of, let's say that. So basically there are two books. One is called Constitution, another is called Democracy, and CRT has its own way to explain. It can explain you in a very basic way, but it is very basic level. Right? It is not very comprehensive. So you cannot get, let's say, comprehensive knowledge, but you can get basic ideas. For that, it can be helpful. This, now, they will not be updated, let's say that. Updated in the sense, इसे citizenship है. तो citizenship के ऊपर जो debate चल रहा है, citizenship law है, law amendment act है, Jammu and Kashmir creation law hai. So they may not talk. So this, let's say, notes can help you in overcoming those contemporary developments. This, still Lakshmikant is not a book which is for mains orientation. Many things they do not mention. This, like they do not mention even important cases related to Article 19. Article 19 बहुत सारे important cases है. And each, let's say, Article 19, 1, then the 2 you have clause. In that you have sedition, you have contempt of court, you have public order, this. So, defamation, so freedom of media. तो जो मेंस में क्वेश्चंस आते हैं, तो लक्ष्मीकांत उसको नहीं डील करेगा. तो हम लोगों ने इसमें let's say we have added those things, so that way it can be helpful. Let's say this. Then we go to next is called governance. You completely depend on the updated notes we will give. Plus class discussion. Why we are saying? इसलिए कि गवर्नेंस पे बुक पढ़ना बेकार है, इसलिए कि जो लक्ष्मीकांत का बुक गवर्नेंस के ऊपर है वो बिल्कुल वो अननेसेसरी थिंग्स दे हैव रिटन. जो चीज आपको चाहिए वो नहीं है, राइट? तो दैट वी विल टेल. Since we'll teach you properly this, even class discussion, whatever we tell, it is adequate. Still, let's say that you need to have, so this, it will provide you some backup and you can depend. Since you have, generally we have also, let's say ED, the ED can also help. ED compilation we give. Editorial discussion, the topics which are prepared, its compilation is on, let's say on portal, you can access it. This section wise compilation is given. Prelims के लिए अलग दिया जाता है, mains oriented के लिए अलग दिया जाता है. This, so it can help in that governance. And same thing for if you include civil services also. So same notes we will give. Plus class you largely depend on that. Then if you talk about social justice. So again let's say that the same thing I will refer. Why? Because सोशल जस्टिस पे कोई ऐसा नोट्स नहीं है अभी, ना तो बुक्स में ठीक से मेंशन है. तो यू आर फोर्स्ड टू डिपेंड वॉट एवर वी टीच इन द क्लास प्लस द नोट्स दैट वी गिव, दैट एंड ईडी कंपाइलेशन दैट वी गिव. दिस वे वी कैन से. So like say that we have a separate, that also we are updating, like programs and schemes. We have a separate booklet on programs and schemes. So all those relevant programs and schemes will be given to you in this. Then we give one, let's say, committee related. Important committees, let's say that. A booklet is there, so you can read, because some committees are, although in the class itself they will be incorporated, but ARC second, Sarkaria Commission, Punchi Commission, so you get some important recommendations. So that booklet is given. So this you can say. So that way, let's say sources. So basically, let's say if you talk about the book that you have to study, so that is called Lakshmikant. Right. The rest you have to depend on notes or class discussion. Yes. Do not buy any book from market, let's say that. Why? Because they are not relevant, because they are not updated and they are not written in a mains orientation. They can give you some basic information, right? Like say civil society, they can give you some basic information, but not information the contemporary developments, challenges related to civil society organization, problems of civil society organization, linking with governance, etc. That way it is not given. This. Plus, by the time we hope that we will give you separate, let's say, notes related to Representation of People Act. Right. This time already we have just, let's say that prepared. So, Representation of People Act, separate note we will give. Poverty, etc., separate note we will be giving. This, they are very, they have been prepared by taking into consideration class itself, plus other such developments. So that way, let's say, so very comprehensive. So they will help you. So that's why you don't need to go by any other source. Yes, but you should read for basic understanding this Lakshmikant. That is what about sources of reading, right? Then let's start with what we say there. Constitution, historical underpinning. No. First we'll start with this. Historical underpinnings. So basically it is 1773, 1935. Before that, we had, but they are not relevant. You study a bit in your history part, this ancient time, medieval time, but they are not relevant. So far, questions have not gone beyond that. This, so that's why we do not go beyond that when we say like this. Now, you have to see that what is that historical underpinnings. I will give an idea. Let's see how it is. You know that we had, let's say, East Indian Company. This means the history goes back to East Indian Company. East Indian Company came here for trade and commerce, right? Doing business. It was a commercial undertaking. This, and it came when there was Mughal time, isn't it? This. So still there was a Mughal time, you can say that, and that is how it came here to do business. Right. Gradually, let's say that this East Indian Company gradually it transformed itself. Right. So it transformed itself into a political and this. तो ये बहुत लंबा हिस्ट्री नहीं है, like 1773 to 1833, right? And thereafter. तो बेसिकली ये एक बिजनेस अंडरटेकिंग है. Then it becomes political and administrative. This. So political and administrative. And let's say that to govern political and administrative, it should also have legal aspect. Right. So largely you can take this into three categories, three types of developments. One that we have political, another that we have, and third that we have legal. Right. But focus is more on political aspect. Yes. So these developments happen. Now then further a time comes, let's say that we get independence, let's say 1947. Thereafter. This. So thereafter we also adopt this political, administrative, legal, and this legal is this is, and this is अब हमें समझना ये है कि वो क्या था मेजर डेवलपमेंट्स. So first we have to understand what were the major developments first. Then how they have influenced them, this government, this administration, this constitution. How they have influenced. This is how. And then जब बातचीत होती है तो आजकल क्या बोला जाता है, इंडियनाइजेशन, राइट। तो आजकल एक सेक्शन है जो ये बोलता है कि हमने क्या किया, वेस्टर्नाइजेशन ऑफ डेमोक्रेसी, राइट। तो आजकल एक दो प्लेटफॉर्म है जहाँ पे डिमोनाइज किया जाता है कि इंडियन डेमोक्रेसी इज वेस्टर्नाइज्ड, हमें इंडियन डेमोक्रेसी को इंडियनाइज करना है, राइट। दिस, so that is how you'll find this. So there is one advocate, there is one, let's say, academician, and there is one IAS officer. this. तो वो ये बात करते हैं कि हमको इसको कैसे इंडियनाइज करना है. This is what we have to understand. Plus, let's say that कि whether we were able to adopt a new system or we just copied them, राइट. इसीलिए क्वेश्चन आता है 1935 एक्ट, कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन. द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन इज नथिंग बट मियर एक्सटेंशन ऑफ 1935 एक्ट. ये एटलीस्ट 3 टाइम्स 2 टाइम्स उन्होंने पूछा है क्वेश्चन. दिस, सो बेसिकली दिस इज व्हाट वी हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड, लेट्स से दिस सिस्टम. सो दैट इज व्हाट कॉल्ड हिस्टोरिकल अंडरपिनिंग्स, राइट. Which again, let's say, I will give you an overview. So when companies started converting, let's say, as we have told you, let's say that when we start adopting a system of government, so बहुत सारे पॉलिटी में ऐसे सिस्टम है, प्रैक्टिसेस है, which started during colonial time, right? Like let's say that कि किसी भी चीज़ का अगर आप देखते हो, जैसे कि पार्लियामेंट, तो पार्लियामेंट when in British time, when parliament, let's say, practice started, right, whether they started the practice of parliament, right, this, when let's say that they had established local government, so whether they established local government, this, what were the powers of governor, veto powers, you can say that, bills concept, ordinance concept. So all those practices that we have in polity as of now, somehow directly, indirectly, they are linked to colonial time, you can say, during British time. This, the East Indian Company first was a commercial undertaking, but by regulating Act 1773, for the first time, it became a political and administrative undertaking. This, the journey starts from there. So basically, let's say we divide 1773 to 1935 into 2 parts, right. This, the first part we say is '53. It is called centralization. तो पहले उन्होंने सेंट्रलाइज किया अपने आप को, पावर को सेंट्रलाइज. जैसे होता है नहीं, पहले पावर तो था नहीं, ईस्ट इंडियन कंपनी के पास पावर तो था नहीं, तो पावर उन्होंने ग्रैब किया, तो सेंट्रलाइज. उसके बाद पावर उन्होंने कंसोलिडेट किया, जो भी पावर आया उसको कंसोलिडेट किया, प्लस दे स्टार्टेड गिविंग इन पावर्स. तो डिसेंट्रलाइजेशन, सिंपल लैंग्वेज, देखो इसी से पता चल जाता है कि पावर लोगों के हाथ में होना चाहिए. हमें इंडिपेंडेंस के बाद की बात नहीं करनी है. तो ब्रिटिशर्स ने फर्स्ट फेज में ही ये रियलाइज कर लिया कि सेंट्रलाइजेशन ऑफ पावर से लोगों में ज्यादा डिसकंटेंटमेंट होगा. राइट, जैसे रिवोल्ट होता है 1857, तो ब्रिटिश रूल को ये रियलाइज हो गया कि दे कैन नॉट रूल इंडियंस बाय कंसंट्रेशन ऑफ पावर्स, दे कैन रूल इंडियंस बाय वेरी, लेट्स से, क्लेवरली डिवाइडिंग पावर, गिविंग पावर इन द हैंड ऑफ द पीपल, एट द सेम टाइम कीपिंग पावर, लेट्स से दैट. इट इज कॉल्ड predatory system, power with impunity. Right, power with impunity, let's say. The impunity is that ऐसा लोगों को लगेगा कि पावर डिसेंट्रलाइज हो रहा है, लेकिन उसमें इंटीग्रेट ऐसे फैक्टर्स होंगे कि पावर अल्टीमेटली this that is what we have to understand. So they started centralizing, then they started decentralizing. That way we can see. So that is how we draw, like, let's say it start with yes. I guess one more we should draw. We say it as decentralization. We say it as decentralization. Right. Yes, yes. Yes. This is just an idea, let's say. Why idea? Because देखो कंटेंट जनरेट करना आपको सीखना होता है. Right. So when questions are asked, if you have broader understanding, now you can yourself generate question this and you can make your answer better. This because things are interlinked. One act is linked with another act. Every succeeding act is nothing but it has a link with preceding act. This, and if you read in that way, so you will understand it. Otherwise आपको सिर्फ वो facts दिखेगा right? और वो मुश्किल होगा याद रखना. This, so regulating it. This, so let's say its basic features or features. Right. आपको पता होगा, कोई भी बुक पढ़ोगे आप, कहीं से भी लक्ष्मीकांत पढ़ोगे, सब कुछ लिखा हुआ है. Right. Like first is it becomes political and administrative. Right. Unit. Right. There is centralization. Right. Centralization happened due to this Governor General of Bengal. Right. In past, he was known as only Governor. Governor of Bengal was designated as Governor General of Bengal. This, and other two presidency, they will be known as Governor only. And then second is that this Governor General of Bengal will have power over Governor of Bombay and Madras. It is the first scheme of centralization. Right. Yes, they became subordinate entity. It becomes superior entity. This, that way you can consider. Then next is that say the Supreme Court was established at Calcutta. This, that you can consider. Significance. Right. So this is how I will tell. So let's write significance part. First, it was first attempt it was first attempt by the British government to exercise control on Indian territory. Next, it worked as an instrument of centralization of powers, which continued till Charter Act 1853. 1853. Next, it became basis for enactment of succeeding charters like Pitt's India Act, Charter Act 1833 and Charter Act 1853. Change paragraph. It provided a blueprint for establishment of a centralized administrative system, which continued till enactment of the Government of India Act 1935. That is, even if attempts were made since 1858 to decentralize power, but the overall outlook of British rule in India remained centralized. Its legacy even can be found today. As India still remains highly centralized. Okay. So this way we can consider about 1773, right? And today we'll finish here. From tomorrow we'll have class from 10:30. Is it possible? Right. We'll have class from 10:30 so that we can teach 3 hours. I want to teach 3 hours or more even, right? So that we can finish. So, a warm up ho gaya hai, isn't it? So from tomorrow 10:30, right? 10:30, yes. We will start. And although we develop a habit of sending message every day, but that is not important. That was not right. It is not important to send message, let's say, when the class is. Because it is already, let's say, well known that message is given only when class is cancelled. Right? For class, every day message is not sent and it will not be sent. It is clear that there is class. Right? This you should know. So do not expect that there will be a message. It is clear, those who are attending online plus you in offline ki we will have class, and generally my class is not cancelled. This so we'll have, and it is from 10:30, right?